How do you make flavored lattes? When do I add the flavor? Do I put it in the milk? Can I add it at the end? Assalamu alaikum everyone, peace be upon you and welcome back to my channel. There are 4 main ways to add sweet flavorings to your coffee. Let's start with the one I use the least, solids. Chocolate bars, peppermint, butterscotch, and other candies. I'll just run with the example of chocolate since it's the most common. Since chocolate is solid at room temp, and you have to melt the chocolate down, you've got to basically thin it out enough to eliminate any chunks of chocolate in your drink. We do this by adding heat and liquid. Some chocolates don't melt easily even when you brew the espresso right over top and stir. Chopping it up can help, but sometimes I have to microwave the chocolate with a teaspoon of water or heavy cream to create almost a ganache. Then I brew the espresso into that and proceed as usual. In the case of hard candies like peppermint, I like to melt them with a little bit of water in the microwave and immediately brew the espresso into it before it cools down and hardens again. Next up is powders. Sugars, cocoa powder, matcha powder, instant coffee. Some powders are better at dissolving in cold liquid than others, but even those require vigorous whisking like with a frother. But that doesn't work for cocoa powder or cinnamon, which are hydrophobic. It's impossible to stir those into cold water, but microwave it for like 5 or 10 seconds and it starts to dissolve even before you start stirring. So the best way to fully incorporate powders into your drinks is to stir it into hot liquid. I recommend always putting powders into your mug or shot glass and pouring your hot liquid directly over the powder, whether that's espresso or hot water. Give it a really good stir and then proceed with steamed milk or pour the mixed base over your iced milk. Last but not least, we've got the most common flavor mix-ins, syrups and sauces. Both are pourable liquids, but sauces are always thicker. Maybe Nutella and nut butters would even fall into this category, but I'm gonna stick with the sauces that are marketed for coffee and drinks. Some sauces, like this one, dissolve quickly and can't hold their shape, but others can be drizzled on top and better hold their form. A lot of sauces use sweetened condensed milk as a base and have added flavors. Others don't contain dairy at all and are a smooth mix of powders or solids, melted or mixed into sugar and water. Even though they dissolve quicker than powders, sauces still need to be stirred in thoroughly, especially if you're mixing into cold liquid. To make sure the flavor mixes evenly throughout the entire drink, it's best to mix sauces into the hot espresso before you combine everything. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine when I see iced coffee videos where people put sauce in the glass and then put ice over it, and then add cold milk. You're just cooling and setting that sauce into the bottom. It's not gonna mix with your cold milk. Ew! So either mix the sauce into the espresso or stir it thoroughly into the milk before adding the ice. Anyways, syrups tend to be thinner, much closer to the fluidity of water. Their base is essentially simple syrup, which is made by heating 1 part water with 1 part sugar until the latter is dissolved. However, for longer shelf life and stability without refrigeration, you can use 2 parts sugar and 1 part water. But keep in mind, while that yields a longer shelf life, the syrup will be more viscous and twice as sweet. Flavors are infused into syrups either by adding whole or crushed ingredients to the hot syrup and later straining them out, or by adding extracts, concentrates, or even essences like rose water or orange blossom water. The more of an ingredient you add to a fixed amount of syrup, the more concentrated the flavor. Because of how liquidy they are, syrups mix into iced drinks much more easily than powders or even sauces. Since sugar crystals won't really dissolve into cold liquid, you'll often see a bottle of simple syrup or liquid sugar at cafes for customers to add to their iced drinks. And since the simple syrup's viscosity is equal to or thinner than the drinks, it mixes in perfectly with just a quick stir. On the flip side, because syrups are watery, They can mess with the texture of your drink or your base in smaller hot drinks, like a cortado or cappuccino. Depending on how much syrup you add, it can make your espresso base more watery, which might affect the way your steamed milk pours into it. If you use like a tablespoon of syrup, you might want to try steaming the milk slightly thicker than usual. For cold drinks, I generally recommend using syrups since you can add them at any point in the drink making process. Oh, and for cold foam too. Sauces are a great middle ground that will work well in all cases, hot or cold. Mix them into hot espresso for the best results. Since nearly all powders and sugars need to be mixed into hot liquid to achieve a smooth, even consistency, I always mix them into hot espresso. The same goes for solids, such as chocolate or hard candies. As far as when to use which method, you can decide based on the flavor combo you're trying to make, or based on the type or size of drink you're creating. For example, let's say I want to make a peppermint mocha. For my base, I could melt some peppermint candy and add my espresso and chocolate sauce to it. Or if I don't want it to be too sweet, I can achieve the peppermint flavor by using a drop of extract or even muddle some peppermint leaves into my espresso. Sometimes I even infuse peppermint into warm milk and then later use that milk in my iced lattes. Another example. Let's say I'm making a cortado and I want to add some flavor or sweetness. I probably won't reach for a syrup because I only have 4 ounces of space in my cup and I want a maximum amount of espresso and milk. A sauce would be better, but a powder would probably add the least amount of volume, so I'd go with a powder. I hope this video can act as a guide for you to create unique flavored lattes or perfect your homemade classic lattes like mochas. As always, thank you so much for supporting my channel. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you in the next one.